Helldivers 2 players are freaking out. They cannot contain themselves, saying it's so over for the 1000th time. Arrowhead sends their strongest soldier, Johan, previous CEO, currently CCO, pretty cool guy, to quell the chaos, but seemingly makes things worse, as he does an AMA and Ask Me Anything, in which people are left with more confusion than answers. Let's go ahead and begin reading some comments and see Johan's responses. Right meow. We'll begin with a question from the Doom Diver, the person that has nothing nice to say ever, just always negativity, and honestly, they be spreading lies. Lots of propaganda, and they're probably pretty bad at the game too. OhDough, this guy, grinds my gears. Why are the devs adamant on making the game they want and not the game their players deserve? It may sound ironic since it's the devs' game after all, but the vast majority of players bought a game that becomes harder to enjoy, and the main reason for that is and has been the devs' choices. Players fell in love with a horde shooter, and we've seen throughout the past 2 years how improving upon that aspect of the game makes for a better experience, such as Hulk surges, increased enemy spawns, increasing the heavy unit spawns, so on and so forth. For some reason, it's more of a priority to make enemies less fun to engage with, remove creative solutions players find, abandon weapons and leave them in a state of viability, in quotation marks, but nothing more, and all the while wonder why players are so hateful. It may seem that people are simply hating for the sake of it, little typo there, but I can speak for myself in saying I just want the game to be as good as it should be, and I just wish the devs felt the same way. They just have a vision for the game that makes it less fun for their true core audience. This isn't a game for everyone is a game for no one situation either. This is the systematic degradation of a game that has left millions of players wondering why. And to explain what I mean by systematic, the way in which they sit there and surgically target the things that make the game fun, it almost feels as though it's intentional to make the experience worse. I've covered this extensively in previous videos. I'm not going to sit here and hash it out right now. You can go watch like 4 or 5 videos and get a pretty detailed explanation. Little side note, people assume that content creators make these negative videos hating on the game for fun and because it makes a bunch of money, which in my case alone, I can speak for myself, that is not the case. Some make good money. They get like 1 million views, which doesn't happen very often, and even then, it depends. But in reality, when I give people less of a reason to log into the game, less of a reason to enjoy Helldivers 2, I am hurting the majority of content I've made previously, because most of my content is gameplay focused. So how is that a lucrative and smart business practice? Giving people less of a reason to log in when most of my content is gameplay. I want Helldivers 2 to focus on making an enjoyable and engaging experience for the millions of players that deserve just that. The folks who are the reason the game is so successful. You can have an amazing product, an amazing game. If no one buys it, who can you tell about its greatness? How can you pay your bills if no one's paying you? And instead of focusing on the reason why the game is so popular, and to keep that going forward, they hyperfixate on the individuals, the small subset of players in the game that will not be able to support them, that cannot keep their lights on, and instead will ditch the game the second it is no longer popular to defend. Their main content isn't playing the video game. It is arguing about it online. And that's who they're trying to cater to. I've seen the exact same song and dance in a game called Dauntless. I told the devs then too what made their game fun to play, what they could focus on, giving them pretty much the data that I could, which is what gets views on the internet, what gets people talking. And they instead focused on difficulty, making it more challenging because that made sense to them. And the game's dead now. And to cap things off, I'm tired, balls. And by the way, I wrote a whole different spiel along the same lines, but it was more detailed. And I switched apps when I was at the gym on my phone. It erased everything. Now for Johan's answer. There's no one truth to what players want. My question was, why are the devs putting their own wants so far above what the players deserve? It's many millions of individuals with varying expectations on what they want out of the game. If you really drill into it, everyone has nuances or great differences in what they want the game to be. Some appreciate the game for its arcade fun action, others love it for the challenge, some love it for the teamwork, and others play it solo. I'm going to say that teamwork and challenge are a bit of a stretch in some cases. Some love the lore and narrative, others just want to shoot bugs in the face. I would say the vast majority of players just want to shoot things. When you make it better to do that, the experience improves. Helldivers is multifaceted, and in this, therein lies the challenge with satisfying everyone. I'm not saying to satisfy everyone. I'm saying to... I've actually, what I'm saying, I've said so many times before in previous videos. What's important is how we align the studio in preserving what is the core of Helldivers, but everyone at the studio has a differing view of this as well. Get them a clue and put them towards the same page, because right now there is so much differing views of the game from developers, and players can notice that. Balance patches in which sometimes they make sense and most of them don't. Changes that just go in the face of what makes the game so good. Enemies just getting released in some cases with no semblance of balance whatsoever, and sometimes being changed for the worse. Like the durable damage change for Hive Guards way back when to combat the Coyote nerfs. Why? It just made so many other weapons worse, increasing the durable damage on enemies that affected sentry turrets, vehicles. That hasn't been reverted. But, you know, who cares, right? It's what the devs want. The players don't get a say in that. And that's what I'm kind of getting at. Especially when new team members join the team. How are they onboarded to what the intent of the game is? A horde shooter that has some milsim aspects, but the focus is making it an enjoyable experience. Enemies that have meaningful weak spots and loadouts, weapons that you can combine in certain ways to provide a variety in which you can approach these enemies, with the missions being sort of there in a sense. And it can go way past that, obviously, but that's just like a very super baseline view of the game. Helldivers at its core is, and always was, during development, a third-person horde shooter. Don't tell you with milsim fundamentals. I will say, when the milsim aspect goes too far, it can take away from the game severely. And in some cases, I believe that the baseline values for certain milsim aspects, ergonomics, sway, spread, drag, are so high that it creates a horrible balance for things going forward. And there's also the aspect of stationary reload for weapons that don't deserve it. They're not powerful enough to justify a stationary reload. Anywho, but at the surface level, this seems like a basic horde shooter, but the depth comes from a simulated shooter. The depth of the game comes from all of the intricacies in which you can handle and face enemies. The ablative armor in some cases, durable damage, if done correctly, fantastic. Explosive resist, also if done correctly, it makes it to where you can't just take explosive weapons and kill everything in some situations. And that is what provides the depth. It creates new ways to approach the content. And that's the reason why I play it so much, is that there's just so much depth to it thanks to those combat systems if they're done correctly. I mean, with a change of tone and more hardcore balancing, Helldivers could become a contemporary hardcore shooter. If you mean like going more towards the milsim aspect, that is a surefire way to lose 98% of your players. Full stop. You can make a new game like that, but I see what you're saying, kind of, but it feels like the game's doing that to begin with, and I wouldn't recommend it. Like, this game trying to be balanced in like a Dark Souls manner is what is hurting it so bad. Like, I know the devs want to make it more challenging, and you can do that, but it has to be more well thought out. And it's just not, unfortunately. How the team stays true to the core is fundamental in how it is developed, but all games slip over time. I know, unfortunately. Looking at you, originally a hardcore SWAT game that now has cartoon characters in it. Games do evolve, especially when teams change and grow, and it's up to direction to set the boundaries, which is way more complex when there's 200 people working on the game versus 60. But there's no right answer here. Whichever way the game expands, some will be left disappointed and others will embrace it. I am not saying to cater to every individual, or even, like, you cannot cater to everyone. That is just fundamentally true. But this game, at one point in time, had a 90% retention rate, and the devs even then made decisions that they took away from that. And they keep doing that, and they're going, whoa, we can't make a game for everyone. I'm not saying to make a game for everyone. I'm saying to make a game that just truly focuses on what makes it so enjoyable. Like, that's what I'm saying to do. And the devs aren't doing it. Most of the time they aren't. The majority of changes the game has made, which there may be more buffs and nerfs, sure, but the majority of changes made to the game have negatively impacted the game more than it has positively impacted it. And that's where the major issue lies. And I have covered, and other people have covered extensively, where these things have happened. But this response, I appreciate the time taken to make it. It didn't really answer my question. We aren't being graded, Buzz. There's no need for the Scholastic article. Is it peer-reviewed? What are we doing out here? We love Helldivers 2 not only for the chaos it is able to deliver, but also because Arrowhead was the anti-live service game. The game had a steady injection of paid warbonds, major story arc changes, and interactive community events with powerful rewards we could earn. There was also a push led by the studio to expand on the in-game systems in an effort to broaden the overall experience when playing Helldivers 2. That was year one. Since then, the proverbial, you would choose a big word, well has dried up. Tier 5 ship upgrades were introduced in July 2024. The still unfinished weapon customization system arrived in May 2025, and the last time we were challenged during a major order and awarded a stratagem was March 2025. Instead of meaningful features and expanding the game, we've been met with a steady barrage of paid content. Worse still, Arrowhead has fallen into a cycle of fixing long-standing issues only when met with a paid content release, i.e. creating the problem, then selling us the solution. Let me explain. Bleed damage, they increased the damage by 10 times, they had forced a Law Bond. Players were long requesting sweeping changes to ragdolling because it was out of control, and so we got the Python Commandos, in which it doesn't even fix the ragdoll issue, by the way. It does not solve getting ragdoll behind walls forcefully by certain enemies. Players wanted more build flexibility for melee instead of being locked into a few armor sets. We were granted that, but only when the Siegebreakers warbond was released, which happens to also have Thor's hammer. Suppressors were broken the second they were released with the ODST warbond, and it took hundreds of posts and comments along with 149 days of waiting before they were finally fixed, just before the paid Redacted Regiment's warbond was released. Fire has been in a rough spot for a long time, and players have long wanted a slow stun effect, but it was not introduced until we were offered the Entrenched Division warbond, which had the Stroker with a flamethrower underbow attachment. And now, here we are. Within a few days of the Exo Experts warbond release, mechs and all Helldiver armored vehicles, ballistic shield, and turrets have been made of paper ever since the changes the studio made prior to us arriving in Cyberstan, but they buffed the durable damage of enemies, not all but some. Specifically, for mechs, they were weakened in a late December 2024 patch, reducing their leg and arm armor. Of course, we get the official announcement yesterday that mechs will be receiving buffs right along with the paid warbond release, which does not address the fact that sentries, the FRV, and the tank will still take more damage from enemies that they previously buffed the durable damage of. That's how monkey ball bouncing goes, I believe. As you can see, this is more than an isolated incident. It is a pattern, and one that the old Arrowhead stood very much against. When can Johan, Arrowhead, and Helldivers 2 get back to that slightly odd, rebellious group of developers that zigged when everyone else zagged? Cornball. Come on, Buzz. Creating problems, alienating large sections of your devoted player base, and then only fixing issues with paid content is not what you guys are about. That's AAA. Monetize till the game dies, Corpo BS. Based. This has all been a very long-winded way of getting to my questions. Yeah, it has, you freaking essay enthusiast. Jeez. Well said, though. Even at this late hour, will Arrowhead commit to delaying the Exo Expert warbond, pulling the mechs out and restructuring it to be in line with what the majority of players are wanting? Armored vehicles belong in MOs and used as rewards for going ham against a faction. Will you hand down to the team a directive to stop with the fixes solutions being sold back to us only through paid content? And finally, is there any feedback or solutions you would take from a player or players that could initiate a pause in the current direction of content the team is working on? We want to help you we want to help you and in turn help ourselves, but we don't populate the normal echo chamber sodium like the low sodium channels. There's a ton of highly experienced players out here in the unfiltered channels that love the game. We are expressing ourselves, but in many cases that feedback falls on what is perceived as deaf ears. It's appreciated that you've stepped out of the normal avenues to meet us in our area. Cheers. Johan's response. This is a great post and question and so much to digest. I know you wrote a freaking book. I first want to address the points that you made about warbond plus balance fixes. I think this is an unfortunate consequence of when we do a push for a warbond, we review all the issues associated with balancing. Remember when we did a nerf to fire just in time for the warbond release with fire-themed weapons? Yeah, we did, and honestly, we thought that was also a bit strange, because it made fire weapons like pretty lackluster in a sense. Yeah, that really hit us hard, and we sort of said that whenever a warbond is released, we need to ensure that the items in it and the associated mechanics are up to scratch. I mean, yeah, they should always be, but you know, that's That's why there has to be more consistent balanced passes. So this is then in turn this is hard to read. So this then in turn has made us really hone in on the theme of a warbond. So if we're working on a stealth warbond, we make sure that we focus testing and balancing on stealth fixes and balancing. In a perfect world, this would be disconnected, but we also have learned that if it doesn't work when it's in the spotlight, it will, reasonably so, create disappointment. But point taken. We'll discuss with the team. So to your questions. No, we won't pull the mechs from the warbond. You can still grind to purchase each warbond, and we see through the data that most do. You people have got to value your time more often. You're working for less than minimum wage, bro. If you're farming through 1 through 3 difficulty, go mow a lawn. If you can. If you can't, I get it. But I'm telling you, some of y'all it's not wise. I promise you. Our rule is that we shouldn't have things that are necessary to play in the warbonds, and neither of the mechs is. I know we have slipped up a couple times. Please call it out. We're calling it out now, bro. Please listen. I recommend not putting the mechs in the warbond. At least only put one. I understand, it's like, oh, why have any give and take on this? Because people would say, well, this warbond has nothing in it now. This warbond has like no items. So the players would complain about that, but at least give one mech outside the warbond so people can have a thing to unlock quickly through X slips or something so they can actually use. I think this AMA has opened my eyes, and it was my hope to the grievances that you have. I understand that behind harsh criticism, name calling and other things, who's out here calling names, guys? Calm down. Whoa. There's frustration stemming from the love of the game and the feeling that it is being mismanaged. I'm gonna be honest, bro, it's not a feeling. And it's not me growing out of love with the game either. It's just the game is giving me less of a reason to enjoy it for seemingly no good reason. The reason why I wanted to do the AMA is that I was so frustrated, and it really hurts seeing a project born out of love for players, creating the belief that we at Arrowhead are more focused on value extraction than on making the best game possible. The amazing thing is that you can prove that. You can show us. And I look forward to that, truthfully. I really do. I think my biggest takeaway here is that there are so many valuable points, but since much of it is worded so harshly, who's doing that? Come on, guys, use nicer language. What are we doing? There are so many conspiracies, for instance, that the team of 130 plus in Stockholm has abandoned the game. I mean, I think people feel like that right now just because of how the changes are going throughout the game, especially recently, and the revelation that people are having that so much work is being outsourced to different studios, which, by the way, a lot of games do outsourcing. If you look into it, it's kind of crazy. I wouldn't expect it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but that's why folks feel that way. They feel as though you're abandoning the game to work on a new one because you don't love how Helldivers 2 turned out. You don't like that Helldivers 2 is viewed so much as a horde shooter. It's like, fun and arcadey, and less so for its milsim aspects. That's why people feel that way. But engaging with you all, I hope proves that it's just hardcore players with a lot of frustration. I'm pretty hardcore. Yeah, I'm saying pretty hardcore. I'd say some people aren't even hardcore players. They're just hardcore enthusiasts, and that's good enough, People truly want this game to be successful. Most do. Some folks don't. They just want to argue for the sake of it. Like, genuinely, it's ridiculous. And I think that those people are the ones that you're taking the most advice from. The advice that doesn't make the game better, I think that's where it stems from. But people, for the most part, want to see this game be successful, and a lot of them feel burnt because there's no other way to feel about it, given the way that things have played out. And there's ways to solve that, I think. I don't think that in this case, I don't believe the bridge is burnt so bad it can't be crossed again. You just have to really show folks that you're trying your best to rebuild it. And that is only going to be done through action. Words, while they can be reassuring, they will not provide the structural integrity needed for that bridge, bro. That bridge is pretty crispy, son. It's pretty crispy. Is there a reason that balance patches to the less used stuff are so few and far between? It feels like stuff just gets forgotten unless the whole community makes an effort to complain about it, like the burning effect, stealth suppressors, and now the mech supposedly also getting buffed. Meanwhile, some old weapons and stratagems are barely used and would be fine with just number tweaks. Not even full reworks, but it rarely happens. Examples: P-Strike, EMS strike, sterilizer. And I will say for the P strike, there's another issue that affects all orbitals where they changed the way that which they get sent in from your Starship Destroyer when they had the whole save super thing going on, and I think the Illuminate dropped. This makes them far worse. And Pilstet said, this is a result of too big a game, too many variables, scenarios, and potential outcomes. Really, this is a path we went down in balance before release when we started balancing weapons not onto a generic core themselves, but also against individual foes. Helldivers as designed wasn't supposed to be a balanced game a la Dota, StarCraft, WoW. It was supposed to be an immersive experience with rules that players get to explore. But to get the game into a fun state, we late decided to balance the game, and this has continued since, and is now the expectation of the community. Shocker, folks want a balanced game that can be fun to play. The unfortunate truth here is that it is way too complex to balance versus the team size and tools we have. I don't think that makes any sense, but okay. The designers are working their behinds off, doing their best to achieve that balance. We could hire more, but balance is also a one-man game, and that's why I said I don't think it makes any sense that it's just too complex to balance. I think the issue is that people just don't understand the nuances, and that's not an impossible thing to overcome. That hurdle can be jumped over. I believe the issue is you have different folks making changes to the game that do not understand that they have far-reaching consequences in some cases. Like, they change other aspects they don't really understand, and that leads to a terrible experience. It's like, oh, we just nerfed the enemies. We buffed the enemy's durable HP. Who cares? Oh, it just made it so everything in the freaking game is now worse at killing it for the most part. Shocker. Oh, oopsies. Like, that's a major problem. And so if that's going to happen, the solution is to have people with a very deep understanding of the nuances look at the balance change. Just glance it over first, maybe. That would be add some checks and balances to the changes in the game that can cause the community to be a little upset. We have been pushing... And unfortunately, our QA doesn't catch these issues. And when they do, they aren't prioritized high enough. I told you the QA team has their monitor turned off. Just kidding. We have been pushing hard as of late to achieve operational excellence, which means to deliver great builds without bugs on time. I don't think the bugs are the issue sometimes. Matter of fact, obviously bugs are an issue. I could handle the bugs in the game for the most part if the other aspects, the intentional changes by the devs or lack of changes to balance, were handled properly. I could handle a lot of the bugs in the game. Now, some folks that are crashing all the time, obviously I couldn't handle that. If you can't play the game, it's different. But, dude, we believe this will, in the long run, let us free up time to be better at balancing. That's why you keep reading. I know this answer doesn't address the specifics, and I actually wouldn't know. This is specific to the teams, and they try their hardest working around the challenging situations they're in. Edit. Clarity on how more people balancing doesn't solve the holistic challenge. It doesn't solve it, it makes it worse. More folks balancing will make it worse because you have people that do not understand the nuances of the game that has just a lot of complex factors. You have three different factions with three different factions, multiple sub-factions, tons of weapons, durable damage, basic damage, elemental damage in some cases. Like, there's just a lot going on, and people that understand these should be the ones looking at the changes and okaying them. But I guess those people are also pretty high up in the totem pole and they don't have time. But something has to change. Obviously, it's been 2 years, and we have so many of the same problems constantly occurring. So I believe that this should be very high on the prio to figure out how you can make it more seamless, in a sense. Will there be an improvement of communication, not just Discord and Reddit, but blogs and vlogs on the official website, streams DE style? Devolver? I'm not sure that is. Yeah, no, sorry, not sorry. I am uninstalling Helldivers 2 from my PC. This is just ridiculous. Have fun, be well, brothers and sisters. I think that's kind of childish, whatever. We have an initiative to do better. This includes streams, Q&As, and other things to be more close to y'all. I don't know why you said you're uninstalling the game. Like, that's not a bad answer. Some folks think that having a blog and vlogs, like, dude, we had blogs before and they didn't help us at all. Remember, honestly, there's one blog that I still go back to sometimes to just sit there and go, this is where all things went wrong. You can uninstall the game, but why announce it? It's not a freaking airport. Weird. Anyway, why the mechs in Warbond? Why not make them free and give us actual mech-oriented stuff like a repair tool, a mech resupply backpack, and a better mech-oriented booster instead? No offense, but a lot of people wanted mech customization, and this just feels like a monetization ploy to drive stuff up into bite-sized chunks while only fixing issues when they go up for sale, because it's variations on existing equipment. So we view it the same as adding 2 shotguns to a warbond. We already have 2 mechs in the core game, and with this, if you like mechs, get this warbond to get more variation in your mech play. Mech customization is still not off the table. That's a good, the very last part's good. The other part, not so good, because he's not understanding that people just want things to go for in a major order, and the fact that we unlocked mechs to begin with from a major order, we raided the factories, I believe is how we got them, I forgot exactly. But we did something, major order style, and we then unlocked the ability to buy mechs with rec slips that are far less time consuming to acquire. And it was just more fun. It was more meaningful. It brought the community together. They worked towards something. And that alone, by the way, saw like a major player spike as well. So it was both good for the game in terms of healthy player logins and whatnot, but it also just meant more. And it wasn't as much of a time sink, which warbonds are just a massive time sink. When will there be content beyond warbonds? Many people think they'd like to see new ship modules so they can spin samples to feel like they're making progress. Yes. There is an issue I feel that gamers cause for themselves, and that is the idea of hamster wheel progression. People love to work towards something, and that's fine, and it's noble, it's all great and dandy, but I wish that people were better at making their own fun in a game, which Helldivers 2 could provide if, of course, they made more things fun to use in terms of weapons and builds and loadouts. But even when things do become more fun, you will always have the folks that just desire this never-ending carrot on a stick. And that can become problematic, I feel. Again, moving on. I'll quiet down. As a newer player, it can feel pretty overwhelming to see the sheer volume of content there is available to unlock at the start. Are there any plans to lessen this hurdle for newer players? I've had some friends join the game, then lose interest after seeing how much time they'd have to put in to play with all the fun toys. That is precisely the thing that I am worried about. As someone who does not have to grind any warbonds, I get them all for free, hopefully for the future as well. You never know. I'd be saying a lot of stuff these days. But I'm worried for people, man. I want people to be able to experience the fun faster. Not instantly. There has to be some grind. There cannot be instant gratification necessarily, but if you pay for it, maybe there could be. But there has to be some form of grind. I get it. It's just bad right now, man. And it's been getting bad. I've been thinking of these for a while. I just don't talk about it because I don't want to complain too much. But it gets to a point. Yes, we're doing an update to the first time user experience, FTUA. We saw the same issue in Helldivers and Magicka, but never fixed them as the lifetime of the game wasn't as long as Helldivers 2. This also applies to where we are in the Galactic War and what has happened. Kind of need a last time in Helldivers 2, but we'll see what the team comes up with. Like, good answer because they're going to do something, but at the same time, there's like no, it's like a PR answer. It's a corpo answer. Why hasn't weapon customization been brought to sidearms and strats? The answer of it really wasn't used didn't sit right, to be honest. The system wasn't complete, and yet it has been abandoned. It could bring so much more fun. I agree with that 100%. If you could customize weapons in a more meaningful fashion. And right now, weapon customization itself isn't very meaningful because you kind of just go like the one route and call it there. There's not too many differences in how you play the weapon based on the options you really have, which is kind of unideal. Why do bugs that benefit the player have to be fixed so fast, while the others that don't are pretty unrealistic, take several months to be fixed? But also hidden changes and lying. The coyote nerf that wasn't going to happen. Any plan on changing this? Sorry for the amount of text and also from any errors since English is not my first language. Have a nice day and weekend. You did well. You wrote really well. Progression is high up on the... I can't speak. English is my only language. Progression is high up on my list and something that I keep coming back to when talking to the team. Really, my personal priority list would be quality of life, bugs, tweaking, reviewing old stuff, and bringing it up to the standard of newer equipment. I believe it'd be the most ideal thing in the game. Progression, more things to spend your resources on, raise level cap and associated rewards. Level cap is 100% hamster wheel progression, but whatever. As long as there's nothing tied to it, it's not a huge deal. It's just a thing to see go up, and people like that. Refresh of the core game, dynamic missions, objectives, new locations and challenges, and core experience. I want new freaking achievements. because those are fun. Achievements that are actually hard to achieve, and you see like a glow around it, and it says only 2% of people have this, only 5% of people have this. That's cool. Helldivers 2 doesn't have that. I think every achievement isn't in that range because they're just very easy to get. Performance is that never-ending chore that keeps on giving. We will never fix performance, but we need to be in a state where it doesn't degrade. There's no deliberate lying, just complexity. No, there's lying. Definitely a lot about the Cowdy nerf, unfortunately. You said you would nerf it, and you did. Like, you changed enemies in a way that directly nerfed that weapon, but its damage is tied to the fire, burning sass effect, which was updated, and herein lies the problem. While we said that the Cowdy wouldn't be changed, the result of tweaking the fire system means that indirectly the Cowdy was affected, even though the alteration was not intended to hit the Cowdy. So the question at that point is, do we now never change the burning effect balance? But why did you change it in the first place? Because folks that weren't the host weren't even getting benefit from it anyway. Not ground fire. So I'm pretty sure it doesn't work still, which is crazy. I think this also comes to the heart of how perilous it is to say anything, because anything can be brought up later and pointed to. But in reality, development is complex. There are so many desires, wants, requests, constraints, and an infinite amount of data that it's hard to say anything for certain if you are afraid of backlash. Well, that's going to happen. You'll get backlash for telling the truth. It is what it is. Everyone at the studio is here to make a great game, enjoyed by millions every month. We should have a conversation. I want to ask, why do we always reach this point? Freaking facts, brother. I doubt Arrowhead isn't aware about the issues that they're complaining about. Why don't they communicate to us what they're looking into, that they're looking into the problems, or why do sometimes they go out of their way to create more things that the player base has shown they don't like? Like people complaining about ragdolls on bots and then creating war striders. Yeah. We always end up in 60-day plan situations where they have to take drastic measures like into the unjust optimization patch and this AMA. So I want to ask, why do we always end up in situations like this, like a cycle? Why can it not be prevented? I think this is, at its core, a combination of not testing enough and that the most experienced in the community are far better at the game. But you're not balancing around us. You don't balance around us. In fact, it feels as though you balance in a way that takes away from the top 1% of players that then affects them, but severely affects everyone beneath them. That's what it seems like happens a lot. As a company, do you think the system for earning super credits is well balanced? Are you indifferent to the criticism that earning them isn't too tied to the game loop and difficulty, or do you think those are silly ideas? I think the super credit earn should skew a bit more to the higher difficulties to make the game more engaging. Based. Farming at low levels isn't exciting. Pretty base, best answer so far. But we are very cautious of rebalancing this, as it inevitably will cause backlash, and we want more positivity and less negativity. That is by far the best answer he's ever given, and you can't argue with that. That's true. You would definitely get backlash. There are folks that love the idea of going into a low-level mission, doing nothing, turning their brain off, and farming for less than minimum wage. It's their favorite thing in the world. More power to them. And they would be very against the idea of having to do higher difficulties to farm super credits. Not everyone, but there are some people, and those people have internet access, and they can write some complaints. So I see the issue there. It's tough to gauge who would really want this. And I think that most people would, but it's just a thought. AMA, and this dude answers like 4 questions. LMAO. Just took a break. It's 48 hours. Got him. When I first saw this, I wasn't gonna make a video because A, didn't answer my question, so kind of rude. But B, there was legit 4 answers, and I didn't really feel as though anything new was said. But he answered my question, so I figured, he gave me a response. May as well make a video. So we're here. And I don't know where we go from here, folks. Subtle ad placement. Hashtag not sponsored. It's my brother's hat. I don't know, man. This game, I feel the major problems it suffers from are just the devs being detached from what makes it fun to play. And I know that sounds like a very subjective thing, but I don't think it is. I think that most people like shooting things. So if you make it fun to shoot things, you make the things you're shooting die in meaningful ways. You give people enough stuff they can use to shoot them with that provide a decent bit of variety. They can have fun shooting stuff while also doing the missions that don't have to be complex. I've come to terms, the missions do not have to be crazy complex because the enemies are just so fun to engage with when they're created properly, when they have, again, meaningful weak spots and they're not too obnoxious to deal with. And there can be differences there as well. Like the Hive Lords, they don't get one shot. Oh no, they don't have to get one shot. You don't have to have a fast way to kill them. And even then, you could do a mission where it's like kill 3 Hive Lords, and maybe do a few other things as well. But kill 3 Hive Lords in one mission. I almost guarantee you, many people would find that to be very challenging. And that, if it was challenging, could have a reward tied to it. Here's a cape because you accomplished a difficult task. Here's an achievement because you accomplished a difficult task. That's where I think that they should be focusing on the challenge aspect. But aside from that, make the game fun to play, because nobody cares how challenging your game is if people can't stand to play it. Like, dude, for 2 years, I've just been sitting here wanting the game to be fun to play. And it can be, and it is. That's why I still play it. I would have quit long ago if it wasn't.
New update. It just ain't it, man. And I really hope that going forward they can realize that, but I don't know if that's gonna happen. I still got plans to play the game. I just know that the experience could be that much better if they made the right choices. And they did. The right choices were already there. But I've never said I'm gonna quit the game. I've never said that. Because I don't think I'm going to yet. Never know. Like, never say never, right? Goes in many different ways, both positive and negative. I really want the experience to be as good as it can be, and it's such a good core game. The reason that, for real talk, when I first got Helldivers 2, I returned it. I played for an hour and a half, and I just couldn't stand it. I was using the AMR. I kept getting new weapons, and I was trying to kill a charger. Basic charger, level 3 difficulty, couldn't kill it. And I thought to myself, this sucks. Where's the progression? I eventually returned the game, bought it again. I learned all of the intricacies of the game, and that is why I still play it today. Because I just love how it can get so complex, and you can have these different ways of tackling it. You can be creative. And that's why in my question I said, why does it feel as though the devs don't give the players a game they deserve? And in that, I think I also mentioned player creativity. There's a war being waged on the players that can be creative in the game itself and find solutions that are not game breaking, but they just solve a problem in a way the devs don't appreciate. They solve a problem in a way the devs feel it's disrespectful. Meanwhile, it in most cases requires execution. It requires them to pull off things that most people can't do themselves, at least not consistently. And that in itself creates a skill gap, and that provides just more stuff you can do in the game, more things to learn. Like techs in games, there's a give and take. Like some aren't healthy. They can definitely trivialize the experience, but others can add to it. Dude, I can go on for a bit. Like I've made many videos talking about the issues the game suffers from. You can go watch me if you want to. Ego over fun, greed and ego. I've made a lot of videos. The AMA finished, and Johan had this to say. I want to thank you all for taking the time to ask questions, challenge me, and share your frustration. Honestly, I did this AMA because I saw the disappointment, criticism, and mistrust in the subreddit, and it got to me. I wanted to get a better sense and understanding of what was at the heart of it. A lot of points that you make are fair. Some are very painful to read, but I know that it comes from a group of players that care deeply about Helldivers and wants it to remain special. So my takeaways from this are as follows. You want the game to deepen. Old systems, gear, progression, resources, and the Galactic War need more attention. You want more meaningful reasons to keep playing beyond the next warbond. You want underused equipment to have a purpose, long-term progression to feel worthwhile, and community action to result in memorable moments again. Furthermore, the concerns that warbonds can feel like they are moving faster than fixes, polished and systemic improvements, which is not the intent, but perception matters. Trust is not rebuilt by me saying that, yeah, sometime in the future, it is by action alone. Over time, that clearly says that we are listening and acting in good faith. Action. This week, I will take to the direction team about how we can align more with the expectations that you have on the development of Helldivers. You want us to communicate better. That means accurate patch notes, transparency around priorities, more accurate known issues, and less reliance on me. Or someone from Arrowhead randomly jumping in to figure things out, like this. When our communication fails, you guys fill in the blanks. And right now, many of those blanks are being filled with mistrust. There's no reason to get emotional, like literally none. Get together.
that's on us. Action. I'll report back once every other week. This is silly. Like, what's going on? Starting this week with where we are, what our thoughts are, and how we're moving forward. There's legit no reason, bro. That's not... No reason. I was reading really good, too. It's just stupid. I was reading really good. That's not why I'm crying. Or tearing up, rather. I can't promise every specific request in this thread. I can't promise instant solutions. Helldivers 2 is a large, complicated game, and some of these issues are genuinely difficult, but that's not an excuse for standing still. There's a lot of work that is in progress that we will see the fruits of in the coming weeks, months, and year. This conversation has helped me understand your frustration a whole lot better. This is not only a demand for more, it is a demand for meaningful changes, higher standards, better maintained systems, and clear communication. And in the end, a game that continues to feel worthy of the passion you, the community, has given it. Thank you to everyone who participated constructively, especially when you were angry. That means you still care. Johan. I know that these are just words, but they're the words I kind of wanted to hear. And all that we all can hope for as players that want Helldivers 2 to be the game that we know it can, is for action to meet these words. And if they do that, just to clear things up, I do not cry like this for games. Not in this way. But in Helldivers 2's case, I've been through a lot in the past 2 years. And I've spent a lot of my time playing the game, talking about the game. And so I'm just reminded of all of that in this moment, I suppose. And just the possibility that I won't have to do one of the things that I just hate doing, and that's saying goodbye to the stuff that I enjoy. So, it'd be pretty cool if the game turned things around and really improved to the point that it starts to look as though it can be the game that so many players deserve.